Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is now out, and the collector's edition has a kinda nice looking ship in the bottle style diorama. I wanted it, I saw the price, I will not be buying it, so I'm making my own. Question is, and it's a big ask, will I be able to capture the game's feel and do justice to Akira Toriyama's legendary art style? So grab your clay, your imagination, and come with me down the hobby hole. I should probably admit that I've never played many Dragon Quest games before. I have played 11 and a bit of 8, as well as an unearthly amount of Dragon Quest Builders 1 and 2. So I'm not totally unqualified, but I wouldn't call myself a Dragon Quest superfan either. What's always fascinated me though is the art direction. Akira Toriyama's character and monster design is brilliant and uniquely his. There's actually been a lot of controversy around Dragon Quest VII Reimagined's art direction, but we'll come back to that. Let's get on with the build. We'll start by tracing out a circle on some XPS foam. We'll then cut our circle out with the hot wire tool. And you'll notice the horizontal slice is on a bit of an angle. This will give the ship a slight lean so it'll look like it's on the crest of a wave. After roughly tracing out where the ship will go, we can then start to build it up with more XPS foam. We can use some styrene sheets to make up the bulk of the rest of the ship as well as the deck. Cut it out to the shape we want. And use a scribing tool to shape the planks. We'll use a Dremel to give the planks some woody lumps, bumps and knots, and then cut out a hole from where the anchor will emerge from. Using a heat gun we can soften up the styrene so we can bend it to the shape we want. And it was at this point that things went a little bit wrong. Turns out that I'd scribed the wood detail a little bit too deeply into the styrene, so when it was heated, things split and everything fell apart. There was much anger, things were said that I regret, stuff was thrown against the wall, which is something you don't need to see on camera. But once I'd calmed down and glued everything together, we have something that looks like this. Now, this ship is going to have 2 decks. The bottom one will build up out of balsa wood. But the top deck is where the characters are going to stand, so we'll use some more styrene sheeting which will hold their weight nicely. And to make sure everything is extra solid, we'll add this wooden pole made out of polymer clay. Using our hot wire tool again, we can add some ripples into the XPS foam to make it look more ocean-like, which, spoilers for later, will end up being totally useless when we add resin on top of it. And because I've always got the welfare of our heroes in mind, I guess we should make this handrail out of balsa wood. Next we'll add the mast, and this old paintbrush should do the job nicely. We'll wrap the brush in some polymer clay to bulk it up a bit. These little fake diamonds, when covered by Mod Podge and paint, will make ideal rivets for our planks. Speaking of which, now that the main bulk of the ship is done, we can seal it all using a layer of Mod Podge. Before giving it a couple coats in white primer. While that all dries, let's make a start on our heroes. And because I value your time, let's make 2 at the same time. For most of the detailing on our heroes, we'll be using Cosclay. For me, by far it's the best polymer clay out there. But at the moment it seems hard to come by, and when you do find it, it's quite expensive. And currently I'm running low. So for things like parts that are going to be covered by clothing, I'm going to use this Fimo Professional instead. Using the Fimo we can start to bulk up the body, as well as adding some details like the boots. At the same time, we can start to make Maribel's staff, which I believe is called the Wizard Staff in the game. For finer details like the hands and fingers, we'll go back to using Cosclay. Next we'll make a start on the hero's head, which I was really nervous about doing. Heads and facial features just scare me because they can make or break the entire diorama. You could have this whole beautiful model, but if your characters look like Sloth from the Goonies, then you've messed up. Unless you're making Sloth from the Goonies, in which case, great job. The added pressure here is we're trying to capture Akira Toriyama's amazing art style, which although it appears simplistic, can be quite hard to replicate. And in all honesty, I'm not sure that I did. Let me know what you think in the comments. Either way, I had to go through a few tries before I could land on something that I was kind of happy with. Making some nightmare fuel on the way. What even is that? But with the main face done, we can start to add other details like the eyebrows, hair, and hat. Now, we're going to make most of our hero's clothes out of actual material, which is something I've never done before. Problem with that is that any pieces of clothing that aren't made out of material are going to stand out and look a bit weird. So we'll grab this scrap piece of linen and press it into the clay, hopefully giving it a bit of texture to make it seem more material-like. And once we've done this for both our hero and Maribel, we can start on Maribel's hair. And with that done, we can add some final little details. You'll have noticed that just until now, I've left their upper arms unfinished, leaving the armature wire exposed. This is so the arms can freely move around and I can position them the way I want. And they'll get covered over by material soon. But still, I don't like the armature wire being exposed like that, so we'll cover it over using this 2-part silicone rubber. But that's pretty much all the sculpting done for now. Let's move on to the painting. Now, as I said before, it seems like opinions are a bit split when it comes to Square Enix's design choices for Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. Some going as far as saying that the diorama style just doesn't replicate Akira Toriyama's art whatsoever. I understand where people who have that opinion are coming from, but I'm not sure I'd agree. That being said, I am a sucker for anything that is described as being like a diorama, but I also think the designs they've come up with, while not being a one-for-one recreation of Toriyama's style, is a loving homage of what came before it, and very fitting for Dragon Quest in general. Basically, I like it, and I'd like to think Toriyama would have too. With the main sections of painting done, let's move on to making the clothing. So I went to my local charity shop and picked out some clothing and material swatches that I thought might be suitable. We can cut the material to the shapes we want, then using a low pressure on an airbrush, we can speckle on some weathering. This material will be ideal for the hero's jacket, but it's slightly the wrong shade of green, so we'll overspray it with a slightly lighter shade. Also off camera, we'd added some stitching detail. Then it's just a matter of gluing everything down using a material-safe glue. And once all the clothing's done, it's just a matter of adding the final details, like some weathering on the boots, and our hero's drawstrings on his hat. And then finally we can paint the eyes. I've left these till last because painting eyes really puts the fear in me. There's just so much potential for things to go wrong. But this time, I think they turned out alright. I'm as surprised as you are. Just as an aside here, and who am I to complain about Akira Toriyama's art, but I did find it a bit weird, to my brain anyway, that Maribel had pupils while the hero didn't. Surely they should both have pupils, or both not. But anyway, that's just me. There's just one more section we need to make for Maribel's dress, which I was finding particularly hard to make out of material, so we'll go back to using clay. Then it's just a matter of giving her a little bow below her chin, adding some gloss varnish to each of their eyes, as well as the hero's mouth, and then that's the hero and Maribel pretty much done. And I think the primer on the ship should be dry by now, so let's get that finished. Now it's time to make our resin ocean. For this I'm using a 2-part epoxy resin, and I've added in a bit of sky blue resin dye as well as a bit of green. But as you can see, this quickly turned grey. So in a panic I added in what is described on the box as royal blue. This is perhaps a bit darker than I would have liked, but looking back at the game footage, yeah, the ocean is a bit of a deeper blue, so let's say it was a design choice. We'll give it a blast with the heat gun to get rid of any bubbles, and then we'll just have to wait 24 hours for it to dry. Let's see how this has come out. Well, the newspaper is stuck to the base, so that means there's been some leaks somewhere. And some of the hot glue I used to keep everything in place can't be removed without taking some of the paint off. But overall, I would say it's not bad. And not bad is pretty good for me. Let's break out the Dremel and make that ocean a bit more agitated. And with the main part of the ocean done, let's hide that hot glue by making a foamy wake at the bow of the ship. Now I've got here some clear PVC strips, and if we use a heat gun on it, it'll shrink and become all wavy. Then if we layer some of these strips together, add some white UV resin to them, just allowing the resin to drip a little bit before putting the UV torch on it, then we're left with some nice white resin waves. Then all that's left to do is add the anchor, tidy up the edges of the base with some foam rocks, fumble about trying to get this fake moss to stay inside the cracks of those rocks, and then let's step back and see what we've made. So we've come to the end of another video. Thanks so much for taking this journey with me and watching right to the end. But we're not finished with this diorama. You'll have noticed that the lower deck is a bit empty, so next time we'll fill up that area along with adding a couple more characters. If you want to see that video, as well as check out what other videos I've got on my channel, be sure to subscribe. Click that like button if you enjoyed the video, the dislike button if you didn't, and feel free to comment about anything you've seen or anything you'd like to see in the future. But until the next time, cheers and have a good one.